This is a little guitar gadget called the Trimmery, which I don't understand why it is not far more well known and, quite frankly, on every single guitar that has a floating tremolo system. Let me explain why. On any guitar with a floating tremolo system, there's a delicate balance between the tension of the strings and the tension of these springs. Now, one of the big problems this creates on a floating trem bridge is that if you do a double stop like this, when you bend this G string, that pulls the bridge forward a little bit and makes that go a little bit flat. Listen closely, I'll just play the high string and bend the other one, so hopefully you can hear it going flat. So if you play them both, now that top note goes a little bit flat. This drives me and a whole lot of other guitar players nuts. And it's one of the main reasons a lot of times guitar players will deck the trim, they call it, where they put the tremolo all the way up against the body of the guitar and tighten those springs down real tight so that it takes a lot of tension to pull it forward. Now, of course, one of the problems with decking your trim is you can't pull up if you want to, and you also can't do real nice, subtle things like because it's real rigid. Now, there's a couple different ways you can install a Trimmery unit. The most common is by replacing the middle spring here with the Trimmery, which is this whole unit. It's got its own special spring and this thumb screw here. And this thumb screw is the secret. This now, if you want to, locks it off, making it essentially like a non-trim guitar. As you can see now, this note no longer goes flat when I bend the other one. Stays perfectly in tune. That's nice. Ah, but here's the great thing. Even with that thumb screw locked, you can still use the tremolo. It's a little stiffer now because you've got basically a center point, which is real rigid. So you have to kind of put a little more force behind it, but absolutely still usable with the thumb screw lock. You can even drop detune and it will not go out of tune. That's something you can't do with a floating tremolo. But the even better thing is, if you do need very subtle tremolo action and you can't deal with that whole rigidness with it being locked off, you just reach back there, loosen that thumb screw, and now you have, once again, a fully floating tremolo bridge. You can get very subtle with. Now, as usual, this is absolutely not a paid advertisement. I buy these with my own money, but they are must-haves on every single guitar I have with a floating Strat-style tremolo. The only place you can get them, as far as I know, is Thomann. I think that's how you say it. They're in Europe. But I put them on every single guitar I have with a floating tremolo. Again, I have no idea why these things aren't more widely known and widely used. Absolute must-have for me. There's another similar product called the Tremolo No, which I've used in the past and loved, but it's a little more complicated. You have to replace the spring claw in your guitar with their special spring claw, and so some of my guitars don't have standard screw spacing, so I couldn't use it. And then also one of them I got, I think had like some kind of defect and had a rattle in it, so that's when I discovered the Trimmery unit, much easier to install, equally as reliable.